Right now on Currents News, schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn are going against the trend.
Enrollment in Catholic schools across the country is plummeting. Some are even closing. But that's not the case here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. I'm Jessica Easthope, and ahead I'll show you how these schools have managed to stay ahead of the curve.
Plus, most mask mandates and social distancing guidelines in New York are gone. Feeding the hungry and standing up to hate.
People from different backgrounds, different religions coming together to feed those in need and also to promote the message that hate has no home here. I'm Emily Drewby. That's ahead.
And the amazing little girl who went through 4 open heart surgeries and is on a mission to help others.
We've had a very strong enrollment, but the interesting thing is how the enrollment has grown this year.
As Catholic schools nationwide lose students, those in the Diocese of Brooklyn are going against the trend. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. It could be a silver lining to the pandemic. Many schools in the diocese even have a waiting list, but one in particular is thriving more than it has in decades. Currents News' Jessica Easthope visited St. Francis de Sales Catholic Academy in Bell Harbor, where enrollment is reaching new heights.
Space is tight on the walls in the hallways of St. Francis de Sales Catholic Academy. That's because it's been 20 years since the school had this many students.
We've made great efforts in our diocese of trying to increase enrollment and let people see the value of Catholic education here in Brooklyn and Queens.
209 Catholic schools across the country have closed over the past year. Nationwide enrollment fell 6.4%. But in the Diocese of Brooklyn, registration is up 1,500 students compared to this time last year. And at St. Francis de Sales Catholic Academy, 569 students are currently enrolled. That number will be shooting up to 638 come September.
The interesting thing is how the enrollment has grown this year.
Frantic, excellent.
Judy Lindner says her students have adapted seamlessly.
Let's go to Jack.
Watching her over and sometimes through plastic shields.
We are the church.
Her first graders don't take up too much space, but next year there'll be more of them.
And because we are growing in enrollment, now Mr. Scharbach is able to make the first grade into 3 classes.
And it's not only first grade that's had to modify.
It used to be our cafeteria.
As enrollment climbed, Principal Scharbach has had to transform the entire school.
One thing that the pandemic has had us do is to really be creative in how we structure a school.
About 10 minutes left.
He says it's sad to see so many people forced out of Catholic schools by the economic effects of the pandemic, a problem they've tried to keep under control at the school.
We tried to be a little bit more understanding, trying to work with them around it. And we also have a tuition assistance committee for anyone who has, fallen on tough times.
St. Francis de Sales' motto is anchored in Christ. Staff says that mindset has kept them afloat.
We continue to put faith first.
So as the school continues to make room, repurpose, and squeeze in where they can, Mr. Scharbach says it's the artwork, prayers, and projects on the walls that remind him a Catholic education is a gift. In Bell Harbor, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
All students in the Diocese of Brooklyn will be back in classrooms in person soon. The diocese saying they will fully reopen their 69 schools in compliance with required COVID guidelines, though no word yet on when. The Brooklyn Diocese says they will also maintain their St. Thomas Aquinas online academy for anyone who wants to continue distance learning. And while right now you still have to wear a mask in schools, most coronavirus restrictions, including the mask mandate, are now lifted in New York City. All fully vaccinated people can safely drop their masks and stop social distancing. Almost every business is allowed to operate at 100% capacity. But there are some restrictions. You have to wear masks while on public transit, at healthcare facilities, homeless shelters, and, as I said, in schools. And some more good news. Check this out. In Breezy Point, Blessed Trinity Parish is testing out some new technology for a post-pandemic world. This holy water dispenser allows parishioners to bless themselves in a hands-free way as they enter church. That's something churchgoers haven't been able to do in more than a year. Fighting hatred and hunger at the same time. Several charities, including Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens, have teamed up to host a pop-up food pantry in Brooklyn. It offers both free food and a message of hope and inclusion. Currents News' Emily Druby has more.
Different religions, different ethnicities, but all of these people have something in common: the desire to stomp out hate through kindness. Doing so through a food drive put together by two different religious-based groups, it's being called Hate Has No Home Here. Working towards unity, something Monsignor Alfred Lapinto says is crucial right now.
The country is falling apart. Okay? Division seems to be more prevalent than it has been in the past.
In the first 4 months of 2021, New York City saw a 73% increase in hate crimes, including attacks against the faithful.
We've had a mosque vandalized within the last few days. We've seen a surge last year in anti-Semitic crimes. And this year, right now, just in the last few days, we have had a few Catholic institutions, churches, and other property vandalized.
Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez referring to the crucifix torn down in front of St. Athanasius Church in Bensonhurst and a statue depicting the Virgin Mary and her son Jesus, which was defaced in front of the diocesan offices.
I grew up as a Catholic, and to see, images of our saints and others being desecrated is heartbreaking.
Asian Americans are under attack too. Hate crimes against them skyrocketing in 2021, 5 times higher than last year. So much hate, and that's what this food drive is fighting against.
Thank you.
Oh, bukkake.
A partnership between Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens and the Met Council, one of the most prominent Jewish nonprofits. 2 different religious groups and volunteers from all different backgrounds, like the Chinese American Planning Council, coming together to help feed 400 families.
It's so heartbreaking to see hungry people standing in line for food in this country. But on the other hand, all these groups coming together to stand up against hatred is really brings hope.
Looking out for one's neighbor, no matter their background, the first steps in creating a more unified city. So while hate might have no home here, acceptance, love, and kindness certainly do. In Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, Emily Druby, Currents News.
The Met Council's initiative has 2 more food pantries scheduled for May. The next one is set for the 21st at 10:30 a.m. at 1077 Coney Island Avenue in Brooklyn. And then on May 25th at 1 p.m., another pop-up will be held at 4101 8th Avenue in Brooklyn. For more information on how to volunteer, head on over to metcouncil.org and click Take Action. The NYPD is investigating yet another anti-Asian hate crime. A 48-year-old man assaulted in Hell's Kitchen. Police say this man walked up to the victim at the corner of West 43rd Street and 11th Avenue and started punching him. The suspect then yelled, "Go back to your country," before biting 2 of the victim's fingers. Governor Andrew Cuomo condemned the assault, calling it part of an alarming, disgusting pattern. Responding to the rise in violence against Asian Americans during the pandemic, the House of Representatives gave final passage to the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. The bill would create a new position at the Justice Department to expedite review of potential COVID-19 related hate crimes. It would also direct federal agencies to work with community organizations in raising awareness of hate crimes during the pandemic. The measure now heads to President Biden's desk, who has voiced support for it. Police are releasing a clearer picture of a suspected church vandal. Take a look at this. The Hate Crimes Task Force says this man tore down a large crucifix in front of St. Athanasius Church in Bensonhurst. He then pulled an American flag off of the building and burned it, damaging the church fence. Monsignor David Casado says the crucifix was put up in memory of his mother, and seeing it face down in the front lawn almost brought him to tears.
How Jewish, Muslim, Catholic people have come together to rebuild the cross in front of St. Athanasius. It's critically important that we respect all people.
If you'd like to help rebuild the image of Christ's crucifixion, head on over to GoFundMe.com and search Help Restore St. Athanasius Church. And if you have any information on who may have damaged the statue, call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. That's 800-577-8477. A group of Brooklyn men have been charged with fraud after stealing $2 million in COVID relief money and flaunting the cash on social media. Look at these photos they took showing off the cash. Between June of 2020 and April of 2021, the 8 men are accused of using stolen identities to receive benefits from pandemic assistance programs. 6 of the suspects have been arrested and charged. 2 other defendants are still on the loose and face the same charges. President Biden is refusing to speak about the conflict, dodging and jokingly threatening reporters who asked him about the matter Tuesday afternoon.
Mr. President, can I ask you a quick question on Israel before you drive away?
No, you can't. Not unless you get in front of the car as I step on it. I'm only teasing.
While President Biden has not spoken publicly about a ceasefire, he did have a private call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Wednesday, where he said he expects a significant de-escalation. Netanyahu brushed off the comments, saying he is determined to continue the airstrikes. While diplomats involved in the conflicts have signaled a willingness to reach a ceasefire, Hamas militants are continuing to fire rockets into Israeli towns. Hadass Gold speaks with some Israelis about their views of the current conflict.
Israeli flags drape the ruined facades of buildings in Ramat Gan, just outside Tel Aviv, clearing rubble after a rocket turned this residential street into chaos.
We heard a few really loud landings. We saw the mess, this whole place was just in ruins and people were screaming. You just can never really tell if when something's gonna happen.
Split-second decisions become a matter of life or death. A man killed standing behind the store. As the conflict between Israel and Hamas enters its second week, the political stalemate in Israel of 4 elections and still no permanent government pushed aside.
In every time of trouble, people don't think about the political issue and the thing that divide us. We are all united and help each other to overcome.
On the streets of Ramat Gan, despite the feelings of unity as rockets rain down, political divisions and instability have not been forgotten. This pensioner, whose electric shop was destroyed by the rocket, says Netanyahu caused the situation, blaming him for the last 2 years of political chaos. Fear and frustration with no end in sight.
Both sides are suffering. That's something people forget. I just want it to stop because I feel like no one's doing anything to make it stop.
Hadass Gold, Ramat Gan, Israel.
Caritas International is launching an urgent appeal to bring medical care to the affected population in Gaza. To contribute to the cause, go to caritas.org/appeal for healthcare in Gaza. There's a lot more news headed your way. The miracle of amazing grace. 4 surgeries, and she's just 12 years old. How this little heart warrior is now making a big difference. Plus, the Diocese of Brooklyn is looking to host a World Communication Day to boost parishes and academies. And why these ducks are wandering around a nursing home.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
There was a time, though, where I questioned the faith and why.
Her faith was put to the test. Her daughter's life was in God's hands. Lisa Malgraf was pregnant with twins and had a 4-year-old at home when she was told one of her babies would need open heart surgery. Fast forward 12 years and several surgeries later, Grace is doing amazingly well and is now helping others.
Good.
When it's nice outside, you'll often find Grace Malgraf in the backyard with her dad practicing her swing. But golf isn't her only game. You can also catch her with her twin sister Abby hitting the volleyball. And when she wants to give her wrists a rest, she gives her fingers a workout on the keyboard, playing her heart out. All of it music to her mother's ears.
It's a miracle.
You see, Grace's heart almost kept her from doing all of the things she loves.
I've had 4 open heart surgeries.
4 open heart surgeries before she was 3 years old. She was born with HLHS, hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Grace doesn't remember any of it, but for mom Lisa, her own heart skipped a beat when she found out her newborn would need surgery.
I mean, it was terrifying, and you just didn't know what was going to happen next. You know, there was a time where we weren't sure what she would be like as a 12-year-old.
But Lisa had faith in the surgeon at Morgan Stanley Children's Hospital.
He did some explanations on paper, and then he just looked us in the eye and he said, "I'll fix your baby's heart."
It was actually her faith in God that was put to the test.
There was a time, though, where I questioned the faith and why, but I've learned through the years you can't do that. You have to kind of put your faith in God.
And the Malgraf family keeps the faith as parishioners here at St. Anthony of Padua in East Northport.
Church was a big piece of it. I find that that's like my therapy almost sometimes when it's hard. I just go and focus and be thankful for what I have, and you hate to ask for more, but sometimes ask for a little bit more.
The 7th grade honors student at Trinity Regional Catholic School isn't out of the woods yet. Grace is regularly seen by heart specialists, and there's always the possibility she may need a heart transplant in the future. But that doesn't get her down.
I feel fine, just like a normal kid.
But if you ask anyone who knows her, she's not normal. She's amazing. Amazing Grace, which also happens to be the name of her team at the annual Congenital Heart Walk. Grace works hard to raise money because her heart is in the right place.
So that we can help other kids and people like me who have heart defects.
She's a heart warrior, and to her mom, she's a superhero who drives her family to give back to others facing the same challenges.
We've been very involved in that and try to raise as much as we can because the research has gotten us where we are. So if it can get us further, it can get another kid to this point, it's all worth it.
Such an inspiring little girl. The Long Island Congenital Heart Walk is virtual this year. If you'd like to donate to Team Amazing Grace, just head to give.childrensheartfoundation.org and search for the Team Amazing Grace. And if you'd like to join in on the fun, you can participate in the New York City Walk. There's Grace at the top right of the flyer. The walk will be held on September 26th at the Bronx Zoo. The Diocese of Brooklyn is looking to boost parishes and academies online. In collaboration with Net TV's parent company, DeSales Media Group, the diocese is holding a virtual World Communications Day for church leaders. The event includes compelling Catholic keynote speakers and breakout sessions designed to help the churches and schools inspire new ideas for connecting with parishioners and students where they are. The event will take place Wednesday, May 26th between 4 and 6 p.m. You can register at wcdnyc.org. Still to come on Currents News, we hear from an artist who is helping to create hope from tragedy and how this family of ducks is bringing hope and joy to seniors. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. The wildfires on the West Coast last summer were some of the largest in history, leaving behind millions of acres of burnt wood and thousands of homes destroyed. But from those ashes, art has been created. The project, called Ashes to Art, was started by artists in Colorado to raise money for firefighters who helped put out those fires. Artists from all around the country contributed, and each piece that was auctioned off had at least one speck of ash from the Cameron Peak wildfire in Colorado. One of the contributing artists, upstate New York high school art teacher and young life leader, Mackenzie Monroe, joins us now. Mackenzie, I hear you're always encouraging your art students to give back in some way. So tell us how you got involved in Ashes to Art.
All right. Hi there. I got involved because a neighboring teacher down the hall noticed that I was doing projects like the Memory Project and the Global Art Exchange with my students. And she said, I have something really great for you. And of course, we wanted to be a part of that. So a few students who are all caught up on their work took on this challenge with the charcoal from Colorado.
That's amazing. I want to look at some of the artwork, and this is the piece that you submitted. Talk about the inspiration and the meaning behind it.
All right, so I chose to look at a photo of a lazuli bunting, this beautiful bird that when I read about it, it has such a neat story. When it goes to Colorado, it picks up the sounds, the notes from other birds' songs, and it uses them to create its own lifelong song. And I think that when I heard that, I thought it was so neat because that's the way we live our lives. We look to different notes from people that we like and make it part of our own.
Wow, just beautiful. Your students also made some beautiful works of art. Talk about how they use the ash.
Well, they used it as charcoal. They used it as a texture to their paint. And they found that working with this type of charcoal was a challenge. But I have some charcoal here. And when you open it, you smell the bonfire smell and you imagine what it must be like for that kind of destruction. And then to use it to create into this beautiful piece of artwork that's going to help someone was a really, really exciting opportunity. And my students really expressed that it meant a lot to them.
That's amazing. Talk about how you keep Christ in your art.
So I became a Christian at a very young age and was really inspired by my young life leaders and other adults from my church that invested their time in me. And so really, I'm a graphic designer, but really my art is teaching and developing these positive role model relationships with my students and other students in the community. And that's why I'm a young life leader also. I knew I always wanted to work with high school students to be that positive influence and hopefully through my interactions with them, show them the love of Christ.
I love that. And the auction was just last weekend. Tell us how it went, and do you know how much money was raised?
I do. A little over 30,000 total was raised from the artwork. And from our personal artwork, almost 700. And so that's really inspiring also to students that they were able to make that much of a difference. And I know that the firefighters plan to use this for new helmets, for new hoses that were damaged by the ash and the smoke while they were working on those fires.
Wow, what a great cause. Mackenzie Monroe, high school art teacher and young life leader. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Residents at a nursing home in South Dakota are enjoying some special visitors. Yes, those are ducklings parading around the grounds. According to staff members from Good Samaritan Society Nursing Home, this happens every year at the facility when a mother duck returns each spring to lay her eggs in a courtyard.
All of these visitors, they've just really brightened up our day. We had a big bunch 2 years ago. And they were in here about 2 months, and they were so much fun to watch. So now we're all watching them and watching them grow, and it's just a lot of fun. Gives us something to do.
One of the staff members says they actually believe the mom from this year's group is a former hatchling herself. Too cute. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.